And this is the stated intent: to make recommendations for preparation to deal with a worst-case scenario of attacks on the good name of the Clermont County Republican Party. They're going to elect a new vice chairman of the Central Committee, but they have already installed Blair Terpstra as the interim vice chairman. Blair Terpstra is Judge Crazy Katie Terpstra's husband. I'm standing here in front of the Clermont GOP headquarters in Batavia at 197 East Main Street, where on Wednesday at 7 o'clock there should be a blockbuster meeting that is open to the public. The meeting is the Central Committee meeting. They have not had a Central Committee meeting in 3 months. They canceled one for a police event, they canceled one for the fair, and they had one where they did not have quorum at the meeting. The things that are on the agenda for this meeting are blockbuster. Starting with, I'm going to build up to the most exciting things. First, they're going to elect a new vice chairman of the Central Committee, but they have already installed Blair Terpstra as the interim vice chairman. Blair Terpstra is Judge Crazy Katie Terpstra's husband, who's not even elected to the committee, represents a precinct that he does not live in, and his wife tries to use her judgeship as a shield to protect him, while she uses her husband as a political hack who is loyal to the insider system. So they'll try to get him in, but they've already made him an interim vice chair, which makes no sense. Well, I don't know that we've ever had an interim of any of these things before. But there will be an election of a new vice chair. Then there will be appointments to fill unfilled precincts. And they, for a long time, have not been doing the appointments because the statute's very clear. You need a majority of the committee to approve of any appointment. Well, they don't get a majority. They don't even get a quorum most of the time now. So they don't get a majority of the committee show up. But they enacted a special order, which I guess means we don't have to follow the law. So they've been appointing people without even having a requisite 50% of the committee present to be able to even pretend like they're adhering to the statute that requires a majority of the committee, not a majority of just the people in attendance. Then the third big thing I saw on the agenda is some sort of committee to request a renewal of some standing committee that I don't even know what it is, consisting of Greg Simpson, the serial liar from Miami Township, Alan Freeman, the person who owes $50,000 for his householder campaign finance and is currently holding 2 elected positions, trustee in Pierce Township and common police clerk of courts. He's from Pierce. Then 2 people from Stone Lick, Charles Tassel and Jen Lanham. That's 2 of 5 of the members, so 40% of the Stone Lick committee will be on this committee. And then James Kidwell and Dennis Ecklinger, which are 2 of the 3 members from Wayne Township. So whatever the hell this standing committee is, what doesn't include any representation of Union Township, the largest township in the whole county. But places like Total Swamp, places like Wayne Township get 2 of 3. The third person from Wayne Township is Rick Grant, the vice chair of the party, who has had a stroke and has been in rehab for like 8 months, and it's been largely covered up. Now, the real big thing, though, is they're going to have a special report to appoint a committee that's going to be chaired by George Pattison, who's a lawyer and ex-judge. We'll get back to that. And Larry Heller, okay, who's a member of the Board of Elections, and then up to 3 other members. And this is the stated intent: to make recommendations for preparation to deal with a worst-case scenario of attacks on the good name of the Clermont County Republican Party. Well, what has motivated this is a witch hunt they've been doing on the chair in Union Township, who 30 years ago was involved in criminal sexual activity, went to jail, been out of jail. I don't know why in his right mind he would have kept this quiet, but they knew about it and they did nothing about it. But then they've been coming after him again and again because he did the unacceptable. When Greg Simpson was threatening the safety of my son and me, this person went to the sheriff and reported it. And you're not supposed to do that because, as you know, Mark Tricalvi's tough on not tolerating violence unless it's against people that he doesn't like, in which case it's good to go. So this person should never have reported the threats. They were supposed to keep them hush-hush and just allow my son and me to be intimidated, theoretically, by these threats of goons going to beat us up. So that's the reason for this, but I'm all for it. I 100% am for the formation of a committee to dig into all of those things that could be the worst case scenario of coming after the good name of the Clermont Republican Party. Actually, it's made me think about it, and I feel that the Watchdog Wire needs to start doing some reports or maybe a documentary on, within the last 15 years, just some of the scandals that could impact the good name of the Clermont GOP. For example, James Kidwell, who is an exec, one of the people on this new standing committee, or whatever standing committee, from Wayne Township, where his 36-year-old son, while living at home, was dealing in, I guess, child porn and soliciting somebody to rape and burn his 4-year-old daughter. That ended up with a FBI raid at James Kidwell's house because of his son for child porn. So, you know, I think it's something we should dig into to understand how it is that you have a 36-year-old son at home that is soliciting somebody to rape and burn his child, his 4-year-old child, who's also living in your home. And I guess you never knew there was anything haywire with this guy. His son now is serving, I think, a 30-year federal prison sentence. Second thing, Judge Jesse Kramig's whole series of sexual exploitation of his hot assistant. So that's something else that could affect the good name of the Clermont GOP. So this committee should look into that. They should also look into, third thing, Greg Simpson, former party chair and state central committee member, threatening my son and me.
You're purposely putting little seeds out there, so information. Don't interrupt me. Let me finish. You're purposely putting information out there so it gets back to Chris Hicks. What you told Andy Cathell is a lie. What you're telling her is a lie.
What do you want from me?
I want the truth. Why are you doing this?
That also lying about having hacked my computer equipment. So you have access to anything I type on my computer?
I can do what I want.
How do you do that?
I'm not going to show you. Why should I show you?
Okay.
It's real simple, but Chris, you should think about resigning. You
Okay.
run for every office. No one's going to elect you to anything.
Okay.
You made a fool out of yourself.
So he would go spread malicious lies about me, but tell people they were true because he had access to my computer equipment, and then covering up an abortion, which I will get to in a moment. The fourth thing that the committee, this new committee about the good name, can get into is Greg Carson, who's a former executive in the Clermont GOP, now deceased, who was involved in embezzlement at Clermont Senior Services and in Williamsburg. That was covered up by Mark Tacalvi and Brian Shriver, the prosecutor's office. The fifth one is none other than Mark Tacalvi, who's a member and of the committee and a prosecutor. They can investigate how it could hurt the good name of the party that Mark Tacalvi had a person he was supposedly investigating, a bad officer.
She says this video shows Young pulling her hair.
He just grabbed me by my ponytail and like pulled me in, and I tried to pull away and he pulled me closer. He whispered in my ear, he's like, "You need to submit and listen to me, I'm your boss."
Doing a remodeling project for him while he was supposedly being investigated. He can also, the committee can also look into Prosecutor Tacalvi's rigging of the Lambeck trial.
You know, I really can't say what Tammy witnessed. That would be hearsay, right?
Where the eyewitness to an assault that took place in this room in the Clermont GOP of Patricia Lambeck against Tina Toole, and the eyewitness, Tammy Brinkman, was not called to the stand during the trial. So that's a fifth thing that can be looked into. Sixth thing that can be looked into that could affect the good name of the Clermont GOP would be David Ubel and his, who's a former chair and a former commissioner, faking his petitions with James Kidwell.
Under Ohio law, people who collect petitions must witness every single person signing the document. A county resident named James Kidwell collected the petitions for Ubel.
And then involved in a scandal involving trying to create and send fake slate cards, where he was let off the hook by Judge Jerry McBride. That's another one. I could add this to the list. 16 is when judges in Clermont County let people off the hook because the political system wants them let off the hook. in absurd, ridiculous rulings and decisions. So I'm only up to number 7. I got 15, Number 7 is Alan Freeman. They can look into Alan Freeman. Hold on. Oh, Alan Freeman's another one on the new standing committee. It's funny how people that are, risk to the good name of the party get prominent positions within the party. Alan Freeman is an exec. He's also the clerk of courts. He's also a Pierce Township trustee. They can see how it could hurt the good name of the party that he was involved in the Larry Householder bribe scandal and has not paid a $50,000 fine for not reporting things on his campaign finance reports. They can look into Jean Schmidt, who is a member and a rep, where she ran against endorsed candidate Joe Dills. He's on the list later, but remember, the religion here is supposed to be never in a primary run against an endorsed candidate. Well, she did, and she beat Joe Dills, backed up by $500,000 of dark money through Larry Householder.
An estimated $500,000 has been spent on TV ads and mailers, painting Schmidt and Freeman's opponents as unfit. Radio ads call Schmidt's opponent the ultimate GOP insult.
And she was also involved in covering up an abortion. So they can look into that and how it can affect the good name of the party. I'm only up to number 9. Number 9 is Pat Monger. He was a member and a former engineer. He was involved in enriching himself in office. He should have been convicted of felonies, but he was let off for misdemeanors in a rigged deal before Judge Victor Haddad, where key aspects of the crimes he had committed were hidden from the judge, according to Victor Haddad himself to me. So they can look into that and how that could affect the good name of the party. Then you got Linda Fraley, who's a member and the auditor. Remember, Linda Fraley, who's a double dipper now, had a long reputation and tenure of wintering in Florida while being the auditor and not doing her job. So they can look into that. She also has consistently used her office as a Friends and Family Employment Bureau. So that's another thing that this committee can look into that could affect the good name of the Clermont GOP. I'm finally into double digits, I guess 10 was double digits. So number 11, Archie Wilson. Archie Wilson's a former commissioner. He was a Bible-thumping Baptist type guy. Other than when he was on his own personal time, what he liked to do is have sex with prostitutes that he got high off of drugs he got him out of state.
Today, Wilson admitted that he met with a prostitute in a northern Kentucky hotel and that he paid for sex with drugs.
So that was Archie Wilson. He's a former commissioner that he liked as young women, as prostitute types, and getting drugs for them and, effing their brains out in hotels in northern Kentucky. That was that's another one that they could look into how that could potentially harm the good name of the Clermont GOP. I'm up to number 12, which is Jason Fraley. He was a member, I don't believe he's a member anymore, son of Linda Fraley. He dumped his wife for an escort who had a drug problem and set her up in an apartment and then was not paying support to his wife, Trina. So that's Jason Fraley. How could stuff like that affect the good name of the Clermont GOP? And then finally, Joe Dills, not finally, I'm sorry, I said finally, but I got a few more. Number 13, Joe Dills. He's a member, former briefly executive in Union Township and a Union Township trustee. He has been involved in serial lies about his affairs and about his use of steroids and other items to bulk him up like a He-Man that he is. So he lied. I actually had text messages relating to his steroid usage and recorded calls, and I never did anything with him because Joe assured me that he had turned a corner and that he had offered to be an informant to the sheriff's office. I don't know if that was true, but more has come out relating to his serial affairs. Joe Braun is number 14. He's a former member and lawyer for the party and a big deal puppet master in the background. He was involved with paying a woman off to get an abortion.
I told her that, yes, I gave you money. That's all I told her.
What was the reason that you gave me money? What did you tell her?
I told her why.
Which is what?
You know the reason why.
Which is what? Which is what?
You know what the reason was. It was for you having the procedure.
For $10,000. The first time she wouldn't do it. Second time she did, and that's what he did. I wonder how stuff like that could affect the good name of the Clermont GOP. And then finally, George Pattison, who's on the committee, who Gary Rosenhofer, another member and lawyer, has told me over and over again when George Patterson was judge, George was involved in tampering with evidence. I don't know. I'll try to interview both George Patterson and Gary Rosenhofer on this item of George Patterson's alleged tampering with evidence. So there's 15, so we can add that on to the one that they're worried about. It's funny how those 15 I just rattled off, most of which involve elected officials, prominent people in the party, none of those ever warranted starting a special committee to make sure that we were dealing with threats to the good name of the Clermont GOP.